Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TriStar Gym channel. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about Jon Jones versus Ciryl Gane, as you guys say. Gane versus Jon Jones. Guys, I couldn't be more excited. I'm just as excited for this fight as I was for Volkanovski, Makhachev. You know I love to call the fights that are hardest to predict. Now, I thought Makhachev would win, but I thought he was going to win with a greater margin, like many of us. And Volk pulled out one of the greatest fights, one of the greatest title fights in history. A seesaw battle that ended in pure controversy. Nobody was satisfied with the decision. Everybody wanted the sixth round. Everybody wants a rematch. I think Gane and Jones is going to be very, very similar. Guys, give me a thumbs up. Let me know that the sound is working properly. I'm going to start off by giving you guys my pick. I'm going to give you guys my pick, and then I'm going to explain to you why. I'm picking Jon Jones to win. But this is a very, very difficult fight. This is the most difficult fight he's ever had in his career. I'm going to tell you guys exactly why I think he's going to win. Thank you, Dr. Foreman. Thank you, Justin, for letting me know about the sound. Why is Jon Jones going to win this fight? For all of you who are not super aware of MMA, Jon Jones is moving up in weight class. He's arguably the greatest fighter of all time. 14 title fights. Ciryl Gane's got like 12 fights. Jon Jones has 14 title fights. Title fights. Remember that. Now, Cyril has also a kickboxing career. He was, I believe, also a world champion in kickboxing. I'm not sure if he was a world champion or not. Guys, being a heavyweight world champion, it's kind of a strange thing. It's super, super difficult because the fight is so volatile. Heavyweights knock each other out all the time. Statistically, they have the most knockouts. Most fights end up via KO. Everybody's got knockout power in your division. Every single individual, even the guy who's a judo guy, a grappling guy who doesn't really throw a lot of punches, he has knockout power. At that size, the human jaw just can't take that much power. For Cyril to go undefeated in kickboxing and then go all the way up undefeated in UFC and then fight and Gane, the hardest puncher in UFC history, and not get knocked out, tells me. And he also fought Tuivasa after in Paris. Guys, I was there. He got hit hard. His chin got checked. He survived it. He is so hard to kill. Even the top kickboxers at heavyweight get knocked out here and there. Go watch all the heavyweight K1 super fights. Watch all those incredible matchups. Everybody takes a beating eventually. At that weight class, it is too volatile. It is too dangerous of a weight class. Now, Ciryl Gane is super, super special in this respect. Not only did he fight undefeated all the way up to Ngannou, he fought Ngannou, the hardest puncher in the history of UFC, and he never got hurt. Now, he fought Tuivasa right after, another devastating puncher. Yes, he got his chin checked, but he recovered and came back with a KO. He fought Derek Lewis, another heavy puncher, toyed with him. His movement, his defensive skills are exceptional. His movement and his defensive skills are exceptional. So why am I picking Jon Jones? Why am I picking Jon Jones? Guys, let me tell you why. Jon is the most talented fighter in history. Jon Jones is the most talented fighter in UFC history. I've trained with him back in the day before he was a megastar. I've sparred with the man. I've trained with him. I've held pads for the man. The guy has two major elements that nobody else has. One, he has a freakish reach, 84.5-inch. He's a light heavyweight with the longest reach in UFC history, only tied by Stefan Struve. Stefan Struve, also 84.5 inch reach. But what makes Jon Jones so different than Stefan Struve? Stefan Struve getting knocked out every second fight. Good fighter, very good fighter, but he couldn't hang with the heavyweights, the light heavyweights. The heavy punchers would always find his chin and put him out. Why was Jon Jones so special? Why could he use that reach and not so much Stefan Struve? I'll tell you why. Because Jon Jones is also something else. He has a freakish reach and he has something else. He's also an incredible athlete. His strength, his speed, his stamina, his ability to move, his cardio, his athleticism, his quality of muscle is also incredible. I believe, I know a lot of people are going to call me crazy, that the striking is going to be very close, and even Jon Jones might dominate some of it. But eventually, Jon Jones, being very, very smart, very, very intelligent, will eventually squeeze this fight out by getting it to the ground here and there. And I don't think he's going to hold Gane on the ground. I don't think he's going to control Gane. I don't think he'll get a sub. It's unlikely. Not impossible, just unlikely. However, I do believe he's going to control Gane on the floor long enough to take those rounds. Now, Gane is not going to be easy to take down. I know a lot of people are going to tell me, Coach, and Gane took him down and he had a bad knee. A lot of people are saying this. Guys, it's different. Gane's takedowns are different than Jon Jones. Gane can hit, they measured on a force plate. You know those, I forget what they're called. They're called a power cube. Power cube, I believe is the name. You punch it. Listen to this. You punch it. It tells you how hard you hit. I posted a video once of me hitting it. And I can tell you that it's pretty accurate. I'm telling you. Like, in my opinion, the harder hitters get better at bigger numbers. Now, they hit it with a sledgehammer once upon a time. And the sledgehammer recorded about, I think it was like 100,000 or 150,000. I'm not remembering exactly Ngannou's score, but it was higher than a sledgehammer. Higher than a sledgehammer. Now, of course, Ngannou's fist is not made of steel. A sledgehammer is made of steel. And this is also, if you get hit with a sledgehammer, it's a lot worse than getting punched by Ngannou. Okay, we're talking about force. We're not talking about density. Okay, two structures colliding. The structure with more density is going to win. Okay. Yes, he has a human hand. Yes, bone is not steel, but he could generate that much force, more than a sledgehammer. Okay. And Ngannou, when he's throwing punches at you, the last thing you're thinking about is takedown defense. So the takedown defense is super easy. Look, guys, think about Yoel Romero when he tried to take down Adesanya. He could barely do it. He barely got Adesanya to the ground. Pereira brought him down to the ground repeatedly, 2-3 times. He's not a wrestler. He's a kickboxer. Why? He has a touch of death in his hands. When you're kickboxing against Pereira, you're not thinking takedown. The takedown door is open, wide open. It's a total different aspect. Okay, so Jon Jones is going to have a harder time than Ngannou to get this fight to the ground. Why? And, excuse me, not Ngannou. He's going to have a harder time than Ngannou. Why? Because Cyril Gane's takedown defense is going to be on high alert from the beginning to the end of the fight. But Jon Jones' striking is very exceptional. He is very creative. He's a different striker than Gane has ever met, has ever seen. And Ngannou is an incredibly effective striker, but he's very predictable. You know you're going to get somebody throwing hard punches, very few kicks, and he's quite stationary. This is not true with Jon Jones. Jon Jones is going to use the long guard. He's going to use a variety of kicks. He's going to use oblique kicks. He's going to use spinning elbows. He's going to use flying knees. He's going to do all sorts of unorthodox things, even in the clinch. He's going to stomp on your foot. He's going to elbow. He's going to knee. He's going to spin off he's going to pin you on the fence, spin off the clinch, and hit you with an elbow. He's going to fake a shot, hit you with an elbow. Jon Jones is arguably one of the most creative fighters I ever had the privilege to work with. I believe that his experience, his creativity, his athleticism, his reach is going to defeat Gane. Now, I'm telling you my odds. Okay, it's 51-49. I don't think Jon Jones is going to steal this. It's not stealing candy from a baby. Absolutely not. But in my opinion, his longer reach. You know what it is? Let me tell you something. If Gane didn't bring in a guy with the 84.5-inch reach who has the athleticism of Jon Jones, he doesn't know what to expect. I don't think there's another guy on earth who can kickbox and wrestle like Jon with an 84.5-inch reach. There isn't. I don't mean, who's the next best light heavyweight? Who's the next best guy? There is not really anybody with those attributes. There are guys who are really, really good. Like DC is obviously almost, he's very comparable to Jon, but he doesn't have the same fighting style. You wouldn't prep with DC to get ready for Jon Jones. It's a whole different system. It's a whole different can of worms you're preparing for. Gane is going to have to figure things out for the first time on fight night. Now, Gane has a comparable reach. I believe it's like 81-inch reach. Jon has seen that before. He's seen big guys. You can find another Gane, a kickboxer. They're a dime a dozen. Great elite kickboxers are a dime a dozen. Find me a guy with an 84.5-inch reach with exceptional wrestling. Now, Jon Jones wasn't the greatest wrestler in his wrestling career. However, when we go to the octagon, when we go into MMA, he's among the best of the best. I believe he's been taken down once, maybe, I think once in his entire career. Gustafsson, I can't think of anybody else who took him down. Maybe partially. But he can absolutely get the fight, anybody to the ground. I know there's a few fights where he didn't take people to the ground. Okay, when he fought Thiago, he didn't bring him to the ground. Guys, I was more surprised than everybody. But Jon is a funny guy. Jon's the type of guy, he wants to beat you at your game. You're a kickboxer, okay, we're going to kickbox. You're a wrestler, okay, I'm going to shoot on you. I remember one night we're cutting weight together before the Machida fight. And like a year ago, we had a controversial swimming race, me and him. We swam and we raced. And he beat me, but I claimed that I won. You know, we're just kind of horsing around. And I brought it up. We're bringing it up. Who won? I know he won. The guy dives in the pool. He's already on the other end. Long story short, he's cutting weight now. The night before the weigh-in, he wants to have a rematch, a swimming rematch, just because it was controversial that day about who won between me and him. He's crazy competitive. He's a friendly, funny guy. I know, guys, there's a lot of bad things about him in the news. I'm not going to touch on that. I'm not going to talk about picograms, arrests, things like that. That's not what I want to talk about, okay? The man has his problems. There's no doubt. Okay, the man has his problems. What I'm talking about is he's incredibly competitive. He's going to try to kickbox with Cyril, even if he can't take Cyril down. This is a negative on Jon, okay? I'm telling you, this is not the smartest way to go about things. Jon will kickbox with Cyril and try to beat him at kickboxing first and foremost. However, if he smells a takedown, he's going to go for it. Why? He's competitive, but he's not dumb. Okay, Jon is not a dumb guy. He's a super intelligent guy. When he fought Reyes and he kept on his feet and all that, he believed he can outstrike him. The second he decides or figures out that Cyril is a little too much or it's a little too close, he will pull the trigger on the takedowns. Guys, Cyril comes from a kickboxing background. However, he has done some impressive things in grappling and wrestling. Okay, he took down Gane. He has leg locks on his resume. He's won via leg lock. How many heavyweights do you know that have won? Name me one other heavyweight that won with a leg lock. I can only think of one right now in my head that pops up. Tim Sylvia versus Andrei Arlovsky. Achilles locked him. It's very, very rare. Okay, so he can wrestle, he can scramble, but not at the level of Jon. Guys, that is my opinion. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Give me a Jon Jones or Ciryl Gane. Put their name in the chat. I want to see who you guys think is going to win. I'm going to do a quick little survey, and then I'm going to explain to you. I'm going to take your questions and comment. We're going to talk about why this fight is going to be so challenging. It's not going to be an easy win for Jon Jones, even though I am officially picking Jon Jones to win. Guys, give me their names in the chat. Jon Jones. Frank against Lesnar. Oh, yeah, that's right. Frank Mir got a leg lock on Lesnar. Very good point. It's just very rare, right? It's very, very rare. Jon Jones, Johnny Boney, Jon, Gane. Okay, guys, I would say that maybe it was my pitch that sold it, but I see a lot of Jon Jones. Guys, this is not an easy fight. I'm telling you, Cyril. Let me make the case for Cyril real quick here before I go in your comments and questions. He has a very Muhammad Ali style. Okay, I don't want to say he's as great as Muhammad Ali. That's not what I'm saying. He has a very tiptoe for a heavyweight. He's tiptoeing, hands down. He's blitzing. He's doing a front kick. He's doing a very maigiri. It's more of a karate style snap front kick, not a Muay Thai type front kick. Okay, it's a little bit more karate style. He has a fantastic jab, fantastic spinning kicks. Even he was able to get in on a single, like a high crotch to a crackdown on Ngannou. He has some interesting takedowns. I don't think he takes down Jon Jones. I think if he shoots in Jon Jones' legs, it's going to be a bad night. Like, he's going to get countered. He's going to give Jon Jones a free takedown. Like, this is a bad idea. Very bad idea. Gane is going in there to kickbox. Now, he's got a quick in and out style, but the big knock on him is he doesn't seem to have that devastating KO power. He has KO ability, but he needs cumulative strikes. Cumulative at Tuvesa and Derek Lewis. He had to throw multiple shots. He hurt them and he stung them, and the way they reacted wasn't so great, and he had to add cumulative shots. He doesn't have that one touch of death out like a light. Jon will always have a chance to scramble, maneuver, And Jon is very good with his elbows. If you try to cumulative strikes, you might get an elbow to the face. Guys, don't forget Jon Jones' ability to elbow on the ground. Like, I've wrestled the guy. When he's in your half guard, he's so long, so tall. His elbows are so long that it feels like he has the angle of mount. When he gets in half guard and he's elbowing, it's like he's elbowing from mount. It's actually very, very bizarre. If you've never trained with somebody that with those dimensions, you're in for a surprise. The first few rounds, you're in for a surprise. Guys, use level up 50 off at jujiclub.com. Everything is 50% off. Make sure to pick up all the latest videos. I've released a bunch of videos. I haven't talked about them much because I actually forgot to mention them on the, but you have advanced basics videos. You have strong and stable running. Get in the best shape of your life. Learn how to start a running program, how to run to enlarge in your calves, how to run properly using the modified pose method. It's all in there, and it comes with a PDF guide to teach you exactly how to start a running program. Okay, running program are the best for cardio. People ask me, how do you get in shape? How do you get in shape? The best for fitness is running. Cardio, the number one way to develop your respiratory system is running. Okay, guys, I get this question asked all the time. Running is the number one cardiovascular exercise there is. Check it out. Use level up 50 off. Guys, level up 50 off works on any video you want. Okay. How much money do you train for? Guys, I'm doing only questions on the fight for now. How much money do train for UFC through GoFundMe? Brian McDonald. I have no idea what you mean by that. Absolutely no idea. Sorry, but I didn't understand you. Guys, I think the majority of the crowd here is for Jon Jones. Coach, what are your thoughts on YouTube channels like Fight Tips and Jeff Chan? They're great. That's from Jordan Shakur. Guys, I've trained with both those guys. I'm actually both on their channels. Really good kids. They love the game, students of the game. And that just goes to show you, if you put your time and energy in something, you can master martial arts. You know, like, you don't have to be the biggest, strongest specimen. That's why I like to learn martial arts from guys like that, because, you know, one thing I'll tell you guys something. I've trained under many, many black belts, okay? And I've trained under black belts that were on a lot of steroids. And I'll tell you something, I never trusted their jiu-jitsu. And I've trained with strikers that were on a lot of steroids. I never trusted their striking. And I've trained with wrestlers that were on steroids. I never trusted their wrestling. A lot of the stuff that they did won't work for me. Why? The guy's full of hormones. He's picking people up. He thinks he's doing it correctly. He's actually doing it incorrectly. I don't trust your skill if you're on hormones. Now, a lot of people get on hormones because they're competing. And other guys they're competing against are on hormones. But the purest trainers, the purest guys you should follow are guys who are natural. They understand why Kimura works and why Kimura doesn't work. They have the inside track. They know what techniques will really work. Now, if you're on steroids and you're learning from a guy who's not on steroids, you're going to actually have a more refined technique. If you put me on steroids, I'm going to do moves that wouldn't work for a regular guy. They won't work for a guy who's drilling them regularly. I've trained with, I had one black belt. I won't mention him, but he was on a lot of steroids. He used to tell us all the time to take steroids. We used to never do it. But his jiu-jitsu was so power-oriented that I disliked it. I just never copied that style. I never trusted his technique. Guys, I went on a tangent there. My apologies. Let's stay on the fight, guys. I don't know why I went on a tangent. My fault. Broke my own rules. My apologies, guys. Let's stay on the fight. We're talking about Jon Jones versus Ciryl Gane. Gane, as you guys say in English, okay? But in French, it's Gane. I got Gane. Habibi, the man is a great representation of the sport. That's what make life count. I totally agree with you, but make life count. You're letting your emotions get in the way. Guys, I love Jon. Me and Jon used to be really close friends. Before he became world champion, before he fought Shogun, I trained him many times. He used to live in Montreal. We spent a lot of time training together. However, when he fought Shogun, I was supposed to be in his corner. George St. Pierre also had a title fight coming up. And George asked me, don't go, because I need you here. I don't have anybody to replace you. So I stayed. And that kind of put a rift between us a little bit. Okay, I had to prioritize George over Jon. And I knew, I was so confident he was going to win. I was so confident Jon Jones was going to crush Shogun. So confident. I even talked to him. I said, you don't need me. There's nobody in the world that's going to change the result of this fight. I don't care who's in whose corner. Lo and behold, he wins. Guys, don't forget, he's the youngest man to ever become a world champion in UFC. Don't forget what I told you about how talented he is. Now, fast forward to last year, or the year, what year was it? I can't remember. George St. Pierre is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Guys, I'm staying on topic here, okay? I'm talking about the mind of Jon Jones, how it affects his career. Because I'm telling you, he's the most talented guy. I don't think he's the best pound for pound at all. I'm going to explain why. But he's the most talented guy. Talent. If you have pure talent, this guy has the most of it. Now, did he work around the clock? Did he use it? Did he exploit it? No. He didn't do it to his full potential. He could be better than he is. He could be a lot better than he is. I'm going to touch on that a little bit. George is being inducted to Hall of Fame. Who's there? Jon Jones. Jon Jones, man, an old friend. We're hugging. We're talking. There was a little friction between us, more between him and George. Just a little bit of friction. Nothing serious. Nothing serious. You know, there's a little friction. We see each other. We hug. Everything's cool. Bury the hatchet. We're very, very friendly. Everything is cool. Life is good. Today's a good day. George is being inducted to the Hall of Fame. Jon is happy for him. We're happy for him. I'm happy for him. Everything is cool. The next morning I wake up and George shows me he shows me Jon Jones arrested. He got arrested that night. This happened, that happened. I don't want to even mention, it's violence. It had to do with violence, okay? Family violence. Call it domestic violence, whatever it may be. We just talked to him 12 hours ago. He just said he's making, 12 hours ago, we talked about how we're going to get on a good page and everything is going to, just 12 hours ago. Just 12 hours ago. And then I'm seeing video of what happened that night. I'm like, what happened, man? Jon Jones. Here's what scares me about Jon Jones' performance. Is he training seriously? I think so. What did he do in these 3 years? Was he partying all night long? Was he getting out of control? Was he destroying his body? These are all things we don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. And it could make a massive difference in the fight. Massive. Because I'll tell you something. Ciryl Gane almost touched gold and he's hungry. I didn't even talk to the guy. I don't work with him. I could tell you that once you touch gold, you almost touch gold. You go back and you're obsessed with getting that belt. You're obsessed with perfecting your game. You're going to get it the second time around. This is his second chance. It was razor close against Ngannou. I actually watched it the other day prepping for this breakdown. I could tell you that I really feel comfortable with saying Ngannou won that fight, but still it was competitive. It was very competitive. Even though Ngannou won, it was not controversial in my opinion. I picked Ngannou and Ngannou won. I watched it again yesterday. I'm telling you, Ngannou won that fight. Close fight, but still Ngannou won. If Ciryl Gane, the one that fought Ngannou, shows up, he's going to lose to Jon Jones. That's not the Ngannou. That's not the Gane we're going to see. Gane is working. Gane is a hungry animal right now. He wants to touch gold. For Jon, it's just another day. He's had 14 title fights. Another belt doesn't do anything for him. A heavyweight title belt's going to make him happy, but believe me, in his mind, he's already the greatest. It's not going to change that much. How hungry is Jon? That's what scares me. How hungry is he? How hungry is he? How motivated is he? That's the one key. If this guy was motivated, if this guy worked around the clock, I think he would be the greatest of all time without question. Now, for me, if you're asking me, if you touch anything with picograms, well, I know it's a controversial topic. I know they changed the rules. 0. In my book, 0 is the amount you should have. 0. Not pico this or pico that. 0. And 2 strikes, to me, you're eliminated. How come when cyclists win the Tour de France and then they get caught for any drug, they get stripped? They get banned for life. Why don't they do this in MMA? MMA, we're not pedaling next to each other. We're hitting each other in the head. We're affecting each other's health here, long-term health. I think if you get caught for any substance, you should be banned for life. Banned for life. Stripped of everything you have, all your sponsors, everything. That's how serious it should be, because guys will never stop. Competitors will never stop cheating. So long. And now look, they have to flex the rules because so many guys get caught. Oh, picograms, we're going to let that slide now. We're going to let that slide. Yeah, because the science this, the science that. The science is changing now. I think there's a lot to do with political pressure. Now, I'm not a biologist, guys. I'm not a chemist. I'm not a master of this. But I think it has a lot to do with social pressure and logistics and ticket sales. Call me crazy, but that's how I see it. Coach, will Jon Jones be too slow now that he went up in weight class, he did a lot of heavy squatting and deadlifting, trained like a tow truck, as you say. That's from Cremidis. Oh, man. You're so right about this. Guys, when he fought OSP, it was one of his worst performances. He did a lot of deadlifting, squatting. Guys, I hope this is not true. I know he put on size, but please tell me his trainers didn't make this error. Because if they did, if Jon looks slow and bulky, I'm going to freak out. Okay? Because I thought we learned this lesson already. And he was critiqued. He was critiqued for the OSP fight heavily. I understand he put on more weight, and I'm not worried about that at all, as long as he did it correctly. As long as he used low impact plyometrics and he didn't use only slow movements. Guys, when you do deadlift and squat, keep that at 20 to 30% of your lifts. Never do more than 50%. Don't even flirt next to 50%. Keep it 20 to 30. The rest should be plyometrics like snatch, clean and jerk, power clean and jerk, not clean and jerk, power clean and jerk, power snatch. MMA fighters, you don't have to go all the way down. You don't have to squat under the bar. That's dangerous, okay? It takes a lot of technique. You think you're doing it right, but you're not, okay? And strong and stable back, guys, it's up on your screen. I show you better ways to do Olympic lifting without needing the Olympic bar, because Olympic lifting, believe it or not, guys, it's very technical. You think you're doing it correctly. Believe me, if I show your Olympic lift, either one of them, to an Olympic trainer, he's going to say, you suck, you're horrible, you're going to hurt yourself, don't do this technique, you have to go back to the bar without weight on it, your technique is flawed, you don't have the mobility. He's going to spend months training you correctly. I've trained under Pierre Roy, an Olympic level. Jacques Demers won the silver medalist at the Olympics from Quebec. In the Olympics, they got stripped for steroids. When I talked to him about it, he's like, hey, we're all on it, we just happened to get caught. You can't win in this sport without it. Jacques Demers won the silver medal for Quebec, but unfortunately for Canada, was stripped from his title. I work with these guys. Guys, believe me, Olympic lifting is so complicated. I use hybrid maneuvers, okay? I hope Jon is doing that, because I'm sure he's surrounded by very smart trainers. I hope he has the money for it. If he goes in there looking like what he did for OSP, I don't know why. I think he got some power lifter. Guys, power lifter means you do squat, bench, deadlift, okay? It says power, but power, it's not really powerlifting. Power, it means strength over time. Like how much strength can you apply in a shortest period of time? That's power, okay? Power is good. Power is plyometrics. Power is speed. Think track and field. Think jumping. Think doing things explosive. Throwing a punch. Throwing a football. That's explosive. The name powerlifting is very inaccurate. They call it powerlifting. It should be strength lifting, because it's really strength. It's not power. In MMA, you need power and strength. But you need power. Power is more important than strength. Power is fast. Think about a car going from 0 to 60. The faster it does it, the more power it has. Okay? It's not top speed. If you could lift if you lift 800 pounds in a deadlift, who cares? That's too slow for a double leg. A double leg, you got to swoop down, grab the guy's leg, and do the lift real quick. I always liken it to moving like a tow truck or moving like a Ferrari. Okay, the words of Louis Simmons, the great late Louis Simmons, he used to liken it like that. His articles were free online. He's a big influence in my life in terms of as a trainer. He used to explain, you want to move like a Ferrari, not like a tow truck. Okay, ironically enough, even for powerlifting, which is really strength lifting, guys. If Jon Jones made the mistake of bulking up with deadlifts and squats, scrap my analysis, he's going to lose this fight. Scrap my analysis, he's going to lose this fight. I want to thank Cremidis for reminding me of the OSP fight. I forgot about that. Guys, let me have a sip of my Tim Hortons here. I don't know how in America you guys live off Dunkin'. America runs on Dunkin'. When I order a coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, I'm like, oh my God, it's so bad. We used to have Dunkin' Donuts in Canada, guys. Tim Hortons ate Dunkin' Donuts' lunch. Dunkin' Donuts was huge in Canada. When I was a kid, it was Dunkin' Donuts. And then these guys came along. Guys, if you ever come to Canada, make sure you pick a Tim Hortons. True Canadian coffee, far better than Dunkin' Donuts. But I digress. I go on a tangent again. Guys, if he bulked up with deads and squats, oh man, his trainers shot him in the foot. He'll lose this fight. If he bulked up and if the Jon Jones that fought OSP shows up, he's gonna lose. How to run proper form, jump on toes, guys. I'm only doing Ciryl, Gane, and Jon Jones questions. Coach, Cyril will beat Jon Jones. Please look at Jon Jones' last couple of fights. He's slowing down. That's Hani Mali. I agree with you, but I think Jon was just trying to be stubborn and beat them at their own game. Oh, they're strikers. I'm going to beat them in striking. I think that's really what it was. He played with fire. If you guys don't know Jon, he loves to play with fire. Look at his life outside the cage. This isn't a man who loves to play with fire. He almost has no regard for what people think. He's in his own bubble. In his mind, it's his own personal channel. Everybody's here to see if... No, he doesn't care about that. He's just in his mind. He wants to prove to himself that he can do something. That's what gets Jon out of bed, man. Believe me, Jon, he needs some kind of freaky challenge for him to get up out of bed. Because in his mind, he's the best athlete, and it's not worth it for me to go and compete with this guy. He'll never get even close to beating me. But if he has this challenge, oh, what if I go and I beat him at his own game? Oh, that's a challenge. Because I'm telling you guys, I really believe if Jon puts his mind to it, he can absolutely take Ciryl down. I don't think he can hold him down for a prolonged period of time, but he can put on the pain. He has enough to put on the pain and start breaking him down so that in later rounds, he can keep softening up Gane and put him on his back and keep him on his back. Because Gane is no fool on the ground either. And he's bigger. He's going to be able to scramble up to his feet. But those elbows, those pins, they're going to wear down on Gane. Okay, what else we got here? Thoughts on Reyes versus Jon Jones being close. That's from I'm the Guy, Bowser. I'll tell you one thing. Reyes has a comparable reach. When Jon fights guys with a comparable reach, he seems to have a little bit of trouble. Now, Gane has a comparable reach. That's what scares me and all. That's why I'm telling you, it's 51-49. I'm not saying this fight is a blowout. I think the standing is going to be very, very tight. But if Jon is smart, he's going to use his wrestling to open up that striking. He's going to fake a shot, hit him with the elbow. He's going to fake a shot, hit him with the elbow. And when he hits him with the elbow, now Gane is going to start thinking, is he shooting? Is he elbowing? Is he flying knee? His creativity, the creativity of Jon Jones will set up takedowns. The takedowns will set up striking. I think holistically, Jon is going to take it. We want to crown the GOAT. That's from Mr. Czar. Guys, I will tell you something. Anything with picograms or whatever, you're off my list. Okay, that's why I have George St. Pierre on number 1. George St. Pierre, in my opinion, was the greatest fighter of all time, pound for pound, and regardless of whether I trained him or not. Okay, regardless, I'm not saying that because I trained him. Regardless of that, he had many great trainers outside of me. Okay, they did a fantastic job, and he's a fantastic athlete who trained from 5 years old all the way to adulthood. He was the hardest working guy, one of the arguably one of the most talented guys ever, but also the hardest working guy ever. Jon Jones was even more talented, but not so hard working. I want Gane to win, but Jones is a hard challenge. That's from Yasir. I think a lot of people would love to see Jon lose a fight, maybe, just because, the things he's pulled out on the outside of the octagon. But at the end of the day, you gotta put all that aside. When we're doing pre-fight analysis, we gotta put all our emotions to the side. We gotta think objectively. Think about how much more experience Jon Jones has in a hard 5-round fight. Those hard fights that he did with Reyes and Santos, those are good things. Having hard fights sometimes is the best thing for a fighter to grow. Now, and Gane only had one with Ngannou. That was a hard seesaw battle. Don't get me wrong. He grew. He's going to be way better than when he fought Ngannou. But he's never had a series of seesaw battles. Just bought strong and stable knees. Thank you so much, Coach Faraz. Still recovering from ACL reconstruction. Now I'm excited to start your program. That's from Paul Pardo. Guys, I always tell my fighters, anybody who hurts the ACL, I say that's your last injury. Do the stability program. Make sure you master the lunge matrix. Read the PDF for how to do sets and reps. It comes with a PDF. And make sure, guys, if you're gonna do combat sports, for God's sakes, make sure you could do the stability ball progression where you get up on the ball and you can squat down, up and down on the ball. If you don't have that level of stability, it's a matter of time before you injure your knee. It's a matter of time before you injure your knee. I don't want to start talking about knees, guys. Remind me after Ask Me Anything portion of this, which is coming soon. I have more guys who did another program injured, knee injured. Oh yeah, they're doing this injured, knee injury. I can't stand to see another knee injury, guys. I have PTSD of knee injury. That's why I made this program. Make your knees bulletproof. Please, no more ACL tears. I've seen too many knees break. Every time I see one, it's like another arrow to the heart. I'm on the Jon Jones train. Jon's real life escapades make me relate to him. That's from Topher. I'm sure I would love to read your biography. Coach, how can Cyril use his striking to stop Jones's double leg and inside trip? That's from Pawan Kurudi. That's a tall order. Listen, Gane is no slouch in the wrestling. A lot of people are sleeping on him, but he's not at the level of Jon Jones. Inside trip, I've never seen anybody in the heavyweight division do inside trip on Gane. Like, has he seen these things? Is he aware at this level? You know, in France, they're great fighters, kickboxing, but they're not so hard. Culturally, they don't love wrestling like in America. Every high school has wrestling. And in America, they have every corner, every street has kickboxing, karate, boxing. America loves striking and they love wrestling. In France, it's more about the kickboxing. It's more about judo. They don't have like American wrestling. They don't have that culture. Somebody shooting double legs. You know, they have a lot of judo. They have great judo. But judo is very particular. You don't have somebody double legging you, grabbing you in a single. Inside trip, of course they have it, but not off a double leg. There's a lot of differences. France is crazy about kickboxing. They're crazy about judo. They love it, but they don't have that hardcore wrestling pedigree that I think gives American fighters an edge. How's he going to stop those takedowns? His size and strength will make a big difference. And his ability to bounce up off the ground, hip high off the ground, and get up to his feet will make a big difference. However, ultimately, I think Jon Jones can absolutely take him down. Now, my biggest fear now is the other fellow who just brought it up, Camridis. He just reminded me about the OSP fight where Jon bulked up and looked horrible because his trainers bulked him up on deadlifts. Guys, I was doing podcasts at the time. I mentioned it. I always say it. If you read my PDFs, okay, what is the strong and stable principles? It starts with strong and stable principles. And I talk about training like a Ferrari, not like a tow truck. If you're in a explosive sport, and even grappling is an explosive sport, you want a certain percentage of slow lifts, but 30% and lower, okay? Because don't forget, in grappling and wrestling, you are sometimes going to, you need that tow truck ability, you know? So when you're in a body lock, you're in tow truck mode right now. You're in tow truck mode, my friend. It's important to have lifts. Like I advocate kettlebell carries. You take 2 kettlebells and you walk. You farmers walk. I advocate for sandbag carries. I think those are great for MMA fighters, grapplers. You know, you take a sandbag and you walk for 5 minutes. Every time you have to drop it, okay, you're doing burpees. You're doing 10 sprawls into a Granby roll, and then you pick it up again and you do that for 5 minutes. Like, those kind of workouts will build everything you need in a sport. However, we can't just do slow workouts. That's what happened with Jon Jones. If you take, guys, I'll just share with you a very simple study. They took deadlifters, which is a very slow movement. Okay, you train like a tow truck, and they measured their high jump. Okay, now when you measure high jump, it's you raise your arm, you chalk, they see how much reach you have, and then you jump up and you chalk again. Okay, you don't have to be technically proficient. You're not jumping over a bar here. It's not how much spinal flexibility you have. We're talking about just pure raw torque. How much can you explode off the ground? Deadlifters have a lower jump than the untrained group. So they have a control group. The untrained group, they don't train. What do you do for a living? Oh, I work at a desk. Do you ever run? No. Do you ever exercise? No. Do you ever do sit-ups? No. That group, the group that does nothing, had a higher vertical jump than deadlifters, professional deadlifters, elite deadlifters. What does that tell you? Heavy lifts slows you down. Who had the highest jump? Higher than the track and field, higher than the high jumpers. Olympic lifters. Makes total sense. You know, when I trained with Pierre used to tell me, Olympic lifting is the art of jumping. What do you mean it's art of jumping? You're taking a weight and you're jumping. It's all about jumping, explosiveness. That's why we don't use certain exercises more than 30% of the time. We limit it to 30% of the time. Why? Because you do need some tow truck ability. Grapplers do need it. Strikers do need it to a certain extent, because even the best boxers clinch. When you clinch, you want to be strong in the clinch. You don't want to be weak. You don't want to get tossed around. It's fatiguing. Okay, so we cover all our bases. And if I was training a boxer, I would probably make 20% of his lifts slow. If he's a grappler, I'll go all the way up to 50 max, but not more than 50. Why? Because even explosive lifts translate to strength. So if you do a lot of Olympic lifting, your deadlift goes higher. Okay, but not the other way around. If your deadlift gets better, it doesn't necessarily translate, depending on how much of it you do, to Olympic lifting. Okay, so Jon Jones did powerlifting. I hope he learned his lesson, guys. He learned that lesson 10 years ago. I don't think, maybe 7 years ago. If he made that, guys, I have now a huge doubt in my. I didn't look into how he put on the weight. He hasn't fought in 3 years, guys. I don't think he would make this same mistake. I hope his trainers didn't fumble like this. If they did, this is colossal. It's a colossal error. If he goes in there looking slow and huge, bulked up and slow, massive mistake. Massive. Did Jon Jones fall in love with striking too much and would not wrestle Cyril to prove a point? That's from Ivan. Yes, he will. He will. I guarantee you, try to strike with Cyril. Because Jon is not the type of guy who's going to chain wrestle for 5 rounds. Okay, you have guys like that. Like Kobe will just keep shooting. He never runs out of gas. Jon is not that type of guy. Jon is going to chain wrestle, but he's going to go back to kickboxing, catch his air, and he's going to try to surprise you. Jon is more about creativity, creating confusion in his opponents, setting them up for something they never expected, and executing. He's not a pit bull on the bone who's going to chain wrestle for 25 minutes nonstop. He's not going to try to drown you with train wrestling. Like maybe a Ben Askren will. You know, Ben Askren locks onto your leg and he's just going to chain wrestle you. And you're going to look at 25 minutes of this. This is not Jon's style. Jon is explosive, dynamic, creative. He's a trap setter. He's been doing this a long time, guys. He has more title fights than Gane has fights in the UFC. Think about that. Can you Muslims teach us Westerners about brotherhood? That's from Posa Piz. Let's have that question for later, please, guys. We're still talking about Jon Jones versus Gane. We're going to be wrapping it up shortly, I'm sure. But we're still at the tail end of it. We've been doing 42 minutes of Jon Jones on Ciryl Gane. Coach, how can Gane deal with Jones's reach? That's from Dead Al. Guys, I'll tell you something. We're going to find out in round 1 and 2 if Gane can even deal with the reach. It's a bizarre thing. It's an X factor. Some guys, it doesn't seem to be bothering them, and some guys just never get around it. Their reach is comparable, so I don't expect it to be a massive factor, but it can be. I just think that Gane, he's never fought a guy with that reach who can move like Jon. He's fought a guy with 84-inch reach. I'm sure he sparred with guys 84-inch reach. I'm sure, you know, they're far and few between, but if you're a heavyweight, you'll come across it. So what? They look like some heavyweights look like baby giraffes. They can barely stand. They're goofballs. They're moving left and right. And why are they in the top 20? Because there's not that many heavyweights. That's a fatal flaw of heavyweight fighting. There's a lot of goofballs. They're blue belts, but they're fighting at the elite level. Why? Well, UFC's calling, hey, we need heavyweights. Well, there's only like 5 in each country. Well, get them. The average human being weighs 170 pounds. So that means the 155 is crowded. 170 is crowded. 185 is crowded. 145 is crowded. Heavyweight? I think Cyril had like 3-4 fights before he got into UFC. 3-4, I should say MMA fights. Because he had, let's call it 11 fights kickboxing. I believe it was about 11 fights. He could have got in UFC after 1 fight, 2 fights. Why? He has enough fights to go in UFC. But he probably wanted a few more fights, get his beak wet, get, used to people shooting on him. He fought in Montreal, guys. I was there for his fights. I saw when I saw Cyril fight in Montreal, he was fighting on a local card here in Montreal. I was in the stands. I have fighters fighting on the card. I told everybody, that guy's going to be world champion. That guy is going to touch gold, UFC gold. He's an elite fighter amongst in a really dangerous division. However, his division is nowhere near as competitive as, let's say, 155. And I would say even 205. Jon's division has been incredibly competitive. And still, he rises above all competitors time and time again. Don't forget, DC won the heavyweight world title. Jon Jones beat DC. And I know there's a picogram story attached to it. I know there's an asterisk. I'm the first guy to say that fight wasn't fair. I am the first guy to tell you that fight is BS. I don't put Jon Jones as the greatest pound for pound. I won't ever call him the GOAT. Why? I think there should be 0 in your system. That's how I say it. And if it was up to me, I would strip every fighter of their titles if they tested positive. Am I ruthless? Am I crazy? No. I just think human health is that important. If I stuffed my glove with lead and I knocked the guy out and then it was found out that my glove was stuffed with lead, wouldn't they ban me for life? Wouldn't they say this guy's a cheater? Put him in jail. That's assault. I think it's the same thing if you take testosterone. You signed a contract saying you're not on any of these illegal substances. You just went and punched that man in the head. You were on illegal substances. Imagine, think about this, okay, guys? What's the difference between a man and a woman? Okay? Men have more testosterone. Men have more testosterone. That's the major difference. Can you put a man and a woman to fight each other by and large? Like if of course there's women who could beat men, okay? I'm not saying no. But let's say we had let's say we did a study. 100 average men versus 100 women. Guys, 95% of the victories are going to come on the man's side. And they're going to be landslide victories. You're going to be like, coach, this was the worst scientific experiment in history. It proved nothing. It proved something we already know, and it's ridiculous. Mike, this is a thought experiment, of course. Nobody would ever do such a horrible study. But what I'm trying to tell you is, what is the difference between a man and a woman? It's just testosterone. That's the real major difference. Testosterone levels. When you're born, your gonads either become testes or they become ovaries. If they become testes, well, you're producing testosterone. Look at women, look at girls and boys when they train. At a young age, it's pretty comparable. I mean, the boys have an edge, but it's not like a landslide edge. After puberty or during puberty, the boys start to overtake the girls in competition, overtake by landslides. Now, you can't even put them in the same category anymore. Sometimes I make my kids wrestle, the boys and girls, they wrestle. At a young age, it's pretty comparable. Don't get me wrong. The boys do have an edge. But once they hit 15, 16, unless the girl has far more experience, she's going to get crushed. Okay? Now, you could see videos of girls beating guys, but the girl usually has far more experience. She's far more dedicated to the sport, and she'll beat a guy. 2, elite. Take the world champion in freestyle wrestling at 77 kilos, or let's make it 66 kilos, versus the female world champion at 66 kilos. I guarantee you, the man's going to win. Like, it makes such a difference. That's why for me, if you get caught with picograms, decigram, whatever, if the number is not 0, you're out. You're out. You're out. You cheated. It's like you slipped into the women's division and you won gold. Not to that level, but you guys understand what I mean. You're getting a boost. If you took that boost, it's because you don't think you can win without it. Or you don't want to take the chance. Guys, it takes a massive set of cojones. Massive. To go in there and fight clean. It's crazy. It's a crazy level of courage. I tip my hat to all the guys who do it naturally. It's a crazy amount of courage. I tip my hat to all the guys who do it naturally, because a lot of you guys don't. But the worst of the worst are guys who are like blue belt and they're doing a local tournament and they're jacked up to the teeth on steroids. I find that absurd. Those guys, in my opinion, never really get good because they're always doing things wrong. They never understood how to do things right. The guys who master technique, they get an understanding of technique, and then they add the secret sauce. The sky's the limit, because then they have the best of both worlds. I'm not saying you should do it that way. I'm totally against that, guys. I would never say anything to compromise your health. I would never. I'm completely against performance enhancing drugs. Okay, but especially in combat sports, you're hitting each other over the head. I think the man should be stripped completely. That's my opinion. Everybody's on steroids. Quote by Nate Diaz. That's from White Shadow. Listen, he's not far from the truth. I don't think everybody's on steroids, but a lot of people are, guys. A lot of people are. And a lot of guys deny it. Just say it. Be open about it. I understand if you're in grappling, you should be open about it. They don't test for it. You should be like, because everybody's on it. In grappling, there's more steroids in grappling, in my opinion, than in MMA. Because in MMA, it's tougher. You get tested. You can't be in all the time. They pop in, they pop out. I personally would never recommend anybody do steroids. But I understand. I sympathize with the guys in grappling. They're going to the highest level. The other guys on it, they'll never beat him without it. Like, I understand that. But you're also compromising your health. Imagine you lose 10, 15 years of your life. When you're older, you're gonna wish you had that 10, 15 years of your life instead of that whatever medal you won that nobody cares about anymore, nobody talks about it anymore, nobody really remembers. Even if you were at the top 1%, let's say you made it rich, you had retirement money, you can't buy that 15. You would give every penny you have to get that 10, 20 years you lost now because you did this much hormones or whatever. You would empty your bank account. Nobody would be like, no, I'd rather go to the grave and give my inheritors the money. Nobody would say that. It's not worth the money. Hoist Gracie was beating heavyweights on steroids. LOL. That's from Gambit. Well, he never beat heavy. Well, he beat one heavyweight. He beat a sumo wrestler. I'm forgetting his name now. But that's that guy with a losing record. It was. I mean, Hoist is legit. But when he was fighting, guys. There was no weight classes. Fighting guys much heavier. But that was a different time, guys. Now it's developed to a full sport. 10 pounds is a lot. Look, Jon Jones. How much you guys think Jon Jones is gonna be outweighed? Probably like 20, 30 pounds at least. It's a massive amount of weight. A massive amount of weight. Coach, there be consequences for hooker IV accusation. Coach, that's from Red Panda. Look, if you did IVs, that's illegal. You should lose the fight. I think if you do an IV, it's illegal. You're not allowed to do IV. It's part of the rules. We agree to it. I think it's illegal for a reason because you can mask your drugs. Now, there was a time where we all did IV before the USADA came in. It was standard. It was everybody. We talked about it openly. Nobody cared. UFC didn't care. Nobody cared. Oh, yeah, I'm rehydrating. IV. Have an IV guy. Everybody would get IVs. After the weigh-ins, everybody was getting IVs. Then they told us, hey, you guys got to stop. It's illegal. Why? Because you could dilute and this, not that. You can dilute. You can mask drugs that we're testing for. Oh, okay. We all stopped. Well, most guys stopped. It's illegal. Now, here's the thing. Did both fighters do it? That's the question. Did both fight? I don't know. I can't tell you they know, but I know for sure the guys still do it. Guys are always trying to get an edge, cheating or not. Hey, Coach, how do you feel about Jon Jones facing no repercussions for what he did to the mother of his children? That bothers me way more than the picogram. Guys, I totally disagree with what he did. I don't want to comment on it because I know them personally. It's not right. I think he deeply regrets it. I hope he was apologetic about it. I don't trust him. Guys, for me, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That's the mentality. I can't give him any more rope. I can't give him any more rope. If tomorrow he breaks another rule, guys, I told you from the beginning, he's not on the GOAT list. He's not. In my heart, my mind, he's not on the GOAT list. Tomorrow when they ask me, give us your 5 greatest of all time, I won't put Jon Jones on. I won't. Why? It's not fair. Not because of domestic violence, because of the picograms. But the domestic violence, for me also, it's like not acceptable. Not acceptable. Martial arts is not about what happened. Okay? So, guys, do these things happen? Yes, they happen to regular people. It's wrong. It's worse when you're a fighter because you're a deadly weapon. It upsets us all. It's completely wrong. We condemn it. However, he's going to face justice for it. Maybe we don't have the right side of the story. Maybe there was more to the story. I don't know. Not maybe by more to the story. I'm saying maybe he didn't actually hit her. I don't know. I'm not deep in the story, guys. I don't know all the ins and outs. I might be completely wrong. There might be 100% proof out there that he hit her. I didn't follow up in the story. I didn't do an investigation. I didn't read up on it. I just heard that this happened. I hope it didn't. I hope. Because if it did, man, I don't know what to tell you. It's just completely, it's disgusting. What else we got here? Guys, we're still tidying up here on Jon Jones versus Gane. Salam alaikum, Coach from Ottawa. Salam alaikum. Keep up the great work. I appreciate your knowledge and wisdom. Thank you. That's from Stereosonics. Thank you, my friend. That's very nice of you. You are a gentleman and a scholar. How do you combine your daily training and praying 5 times a day? I realize that praying Fajr causes me the most problems in terms of recovery. That's from Navid Tufan. Navid, I'm not a mufti, okay? But you should talk to a mufti and tell him about your situation. Tell him. Go ask a mufti and ask 2-3 different muftis, and you might be able to do jamaat. Do you travel? Do you drive? Etc. That's not for me to say. It's for a mufti, somebody with expertise in your circumstance and your endeavor. Are you doing this as a career? Is this your job? Etc. He's going to consider everything. He's going to give you a suggestion, okay? But that's outside my realm of expertise, okay? You need somebody who's really an expert in this. Nicky Rod says he's natty. Do you believe it? Okay, guys, let's open it up to ask me anything, okay? I feel like we beat the Jon Jones, Cyril Gane horse to death. Guys, I just want to say one last thing. I got shook now by our Greek friend, a friend with a Greek name. I'm forgetting his name now. If Jon Jones bulked up with deadlifts and squats, guys, I'm going to freak out. My post-fight analysis is not going to be nice. I'm going to freak out on his coaches. I hope his coaches know better than this. This is not complicated. This is not like, if you're training an elite fighter like Jon Jones, one of the greatest of all time, you better know this basic element. You better know that he's not, shouldn't be he shouldn't be bulking up with deadlifts. For God's sakes, man, tell me they didn't make this mistake. Is if they did, he's gonna lose, and he's gonna lose bad, and he's gonna be embarrassed. If the Jon Jones that fought OSP shows up, it's gonna blow my mind. They can't possibly make this mistake twice. I think the first time it happened, Jon just kind of took things in his own mind, his own hands, and his coaches were like, "Oh, he's just toying around with powerlifting," and he bulked up. The worst idea possible. The worst idea possible. Don't get me in the history of Marv Marinovich and how he discovered it and NFL. Like, you should know this. If you're a trainer, you should know this. God, that frustrates me. Remind me to tell you the Marv Marinovich story one day. High influence on my trading system. Very high influence. Okay, speed is king. If they did this, man, if they did this mistake, man, my post fight analysis is gonna be a massacre. Okay, is Nicky Rod? Let's get it. This Nicky Rod. Let me look at Nicky Rod. Let me look at his pictures before and after, years growing up. Let me see. Let me look at his bod. Okay, actually, I was supposed to have Nicky Rod before COVID. He was supposed to come up and give a seminar at TriStar. Unfortunately, COVID happened and the border shut down. But I never got to work with him. Okay, but I would love to work with him. He's like, train with him, have a seminar and all that. He's a phenomenal grappler. I can't tell you that. Let me just see here, guys. I'm looking at pictures of Nicky Rod here. I wish I could give you guys a no. I wish I can give you a resounding no, because he's such a nice kid. Let's just say I'm highly suspicious. I'm looking at a picture here where he's less muscular, he's more lean, and he doesn't have any acne. And here's a later photo. And of course, don't forget, acne usually happens during puberty. He's well past his teen years. And here he's got a bad skin. Okay, now usually some people can have bad skin their entire life. So from puberty into adulthood, yes. But you rarely see somebody. I didn't have acne when I was a teenager, and then all of a sudden I developed acne. It can happen. Absolutely. It can have to do with your diet. It can have to do with a lot of different things. If you go talk to your dermatologist, you can figure it out for you. However, one major possibility is also you're taking hormones. One of the side effects is pimples. Okay, acne. And there's a touch of it, and you see his abs popping out. Like, these are look, this could be, I'm just saying I'm suspicious. I'm not saying I'm not giving you a firm yes. This could be because he's training his entire life, so you can develop that type of body. You can. If you look at wrestlers, people who start wrestling at 5 years old when they're in their 20s, or look at gymnasts. Go see gymnasts, okay? Yes, some of them are on steroids, but not at a young age, and they're shredded at a young age. And they say, experts say that, oh, how could you be muscular at a young age? You don't have testosterone. Well, gymnasts defy the facts. I highly doubt that all these gymnasts are on steroids, because I've been in gyms in various countries, and they're all muscular. I've studied gymnastics, and I was very interested in gymnastics, how they build their physiques, etc. And I can tell you, gyms around the world all have the same phenomenon. Young kids that are muscular. And if you see their exercise program, you would say, look, maybe science hasn't understood this yet, because there are no controlled studies on gymnasts. We just have this ancient art of gymnastics. And these kids are shredded. And I doubt that they're all on. I highly doubt. I don't think any of these kids are actually on steroids. Nobody would be crazy enough. There are a few cases that have been proven that kids are on steroids, yes. But these are far and few between. The last I could think was the kid Tarzan. They used to call him Tarzan. And his father, as soon as they wanted to drug test their son, his son, he ran away. He abandoned the family. And then the kid was taking these shakes from his father. All of a sudden, the kid's body became normal. Now in adulthood, he's not ripped, he's not shredded, he's not muscular. But when he was a kid, he was super shredded, muscular. He used to do these incredible things. Long story short, obviously his father was giving him testosterone at a young age. Guys, I could just tell you, look, trying to be as politically correct as I can here. It's a fine line. Here's another interesting thing, okay? I just want to say something else. One time I was wrestling in a gym. I was in Europe. I was doing a seminar, and I was there for a fight. And I was about to wrestle with this professional MMA fighter, and he was a big muscular guy. And he told me, hey, I just gotta warn you. This is what he told me. He's like, I apply a cream. I'm like, okay, what's your? I apply testosterone cream. I'm like, okay. I just warn my sparring partners because just in case it goes on your body. What? I was like, what? He like showed me the cream. He's like, look, I'm just telling you, I'm prepping for a fight. I'm creaming before training. And it was a testosterone cream. So I didn't wrestle with him. I ended up telling him, look, I'm not gonna wrestle with you because I couldn't even understand what he was. The guy's English wasn't great, but he was showing me, look, I have this cream on my body. I was like, later the guys explained to me, look, he's putting testosterone on his skin. That's why certain guys don't want to roll with him, and he's being open about it. I don't know if any guys. I'm not an expert in this. Okay, we'd have to ask more dates, more plays. I don't know if it's true that if you put on testosterone cream and you go and you roll with your partners, is that testosterone going to go from skin to skin? Is it possible? I have no idea. Is it quickly absorbed? And because I know there's a lot of fighters that put on this testosterone cream. Dan Henderson used to do it openly. Remember Decision Dan? That was his first nickname. Guys, we used to call Dan Henderson Decision Dan. Go look at his earlier fights in Pride. He couldn't knock out anybody. He used to go to decision. All of a sudden, excuse me. All of a sudden, Decision Dan Henderson, we call him the H-bomb now. Why do we call him the H-bomb? The guy is knocking out people silly. Knocking guys out, I'm telling you, comatose. You guys remember what he did to Bisbing? Very difficult thing to watch, but he's crushing guys with the right hand. One touch, the guy's out. In my opinion, guys, I know he's a very decorated fighter. To me, those titles mean nothing. They mean nothing to me. You give me that testosterone cream, and he had an exemption, right? And you take him, put him naturally, I'll beat him 100% of the time. If we fight 100 times, I will beat him 100% of the time. If you put him on testosterone, he's a problem. He's a problem. I'm telling you guys, certain fighters are effective. They're not good. Don't get me wrong. If you make it to UFC and you win a title, you're a stud. But you did it on this and that cream and this and that. To me, that means nothing. That means nothing. You're fighting a guy who's natural. Maybe. You're beating guys who are natural. Or sometimes the playing field is level. Guys, I can tell you that everybody impresses me. Some guys, I could tell you that they're effective, they're dangerous, they're very, very effective in the fight, but doesn't mean they're knowledgeable, technical. It's like if you put a goofball, a really tough guy, not a super technician, but you put a tough guy in a women's division and he cleans house. We saw what happens with that guy who transitioned to swimming. In men's division, he was ranked 400. I have one of my students who raced against him. He's like, oh, he's not a good swimmer. He's not a good swimmer. He calls himself Leah Thomas. Then he converts to, he transitions. He still has his Franken beans, guys. He still has Franken beans. But he popped a couple of pills and he says, oh, you know what? I've transitioned. I have no more advantage. And he's number one. And then people advocate for this. Guys, there is no... I was listening to a podcast one time of Joe Rogan. And he had this guy who had a really good show. It's called Adam Ruins Everything. And he's talking about how transgender athletes don't have any advantage in sports. So if you take a man and he transitions and you put him in female sports, he has no advantage. Thank God Joe put him in his place. Because this guy's, first of all, he's built like a marshmallow. He's like this little nerdy guy with glasses and he thinks he's so smart. And let me tell you something. A lot of his arguments are good, but a lot of them are not. Take this from me, guys. I have a bachelor's in philosophy. I've studied logic formally. He's wrong. He's wrong. He's trying to say alpha male doesn't exist. It's not. Anyways, I'm not going to get into that. It exists in a certain way. It's a concept. He tried to prove that. He tried to one time he do a whole video on how alpha males don't exist. They do exist. It's a concept. Because it's a concept doesn't mean it doesn't exist. If he denies the existence of alpha male, he's going to have to deny the existence of all sorts of other concepts, which I wish I was there at the table so I can prove him wrong. But anyways, he's not a philosopher. He's just got a really popular TV show. He's an interesting guy. He's not dumb. He's an interesting guy. He's a smart guy. However, he's not just like everybody. He's not completely right about everything. I'm sure I'm wrong about a lot of things. I have no doubt that I'm wrong about a lot of things. But one thing I'm correct about is that if you were born male and you went through male puberty and you're in your mid-adulthood, you're in your mid-20s, and you transition to female, you have a massive advantage in the octagon. You have a massive advantage, and it's despicable, disgusting, horrible that they put... I saw a fight between a guy and a girl. He transitioned. First of all, they show you see pictures of him as a Navy SEAL. He's jacked. He's a jacked Navy SEAL. And then he transitions to a woman, and then he put him against this French girl. And then they're trying to praise him on how brave he is. Dude, he's a man fighting a woman. And the girl is actually more skilled than him. But then he rages, grabs the girl, beats. Dude, this is ridiculous. Who sanctioned this fight? The guy obviously has masculine features. He has an advantage. There's a reason why we have weight divisions. There's a reason why we have divisions, male and female division. It's not fair. He has a testosterone advantage. He grew up with more testosterone in his system than she did. She's actually, in my opinion, watching them fight, she was the better fighter. She was more skilled. She was mechanically sound. She had better punch selection. The guy at the end of the day got his hands on her, ripped her down to the ground, just elbowed and it was vicious. These knuckleheads like Adam Ruins Everything are saying, oh no, there's no advantage. How do you know? First of all, let me tell you guys something, okay? You can't know something empirically unless you do a double-blind study. That's the new benchmark for saying we know something. Did you run a double-blind study? No, you didn't, because no study would be deemed ethical. No study like this would ever happen, okay? It would never be deemed ethical. You're just talking out of your ass. You're speculating. You should tell people, look, I speculate. I think that maybe after going through transition, not that we can know because we don't have a double-blind study. And if you don't know that you need a double-blind study, and that's the bare minimum to make an empirical claim, then you're completely clueless. Okay, Adam Ruins Everything. It would be completely clueless. He'd have to concede to this point. He'd have to say, look, I can't know empirically unless I have a double-blind study, which I don't, because it would be highly unethical to make people fight, etc., this and that. However, I could tell you that I'm speculating. No, if he was speculating, fine, that's his opinion, but it's worth nothing because he knows nothing about combat sports. I'm telling you guys, I've trained thousands and thousands of people. And yes, we have women spar with men about the same weight, but I will tell you something. The men have a distinct advantage, and it has to do with their genetics, not their hard work, dedication, or intelligence, or fight IQ. The women have just as much of that. And even sometimes the woman with more experience will often lose to a guy with less experience. Why? Because he's just stronger. He's more robust. He can take shots more. He can move forward more. Even women can hit as hard as men sometimes, or it could be comparable, but the absorption of the shot, usually men can take a lot more. Okay, they're more robust. All this to say, I want to, if you take steroids, it's a massive advantage. Stop saying that stupid. I hate these dumb. Oh, steroids doesn't make you good at jiu-jitsu. Doesn't teach you how to do an armbar. That's a ridiculous claim. Of course not. It doesn't teach you how to do armbar, but you have more training hours in your system. You could train longer. You could train more often. You get less injured. You don't have to go through all the obstacles I have to go through when I train naturally. When I train, I need to rest. I need to take a nap. I need to recover. My leg is hurting. My knee is hurting. I have inflammation. I need to recover now. I might have to go really light next practice. You can keep training 3 times a day, 7 days a week. You can go into more intense levels of training. Why? You have the testosterone. Once testosterone is exhausted, guys, your training now is counterproductive. I hope you guys know this. Right? You have about 45 minutes of intense training in you. After that, if you don't rest 5 to 6 hours at least, you don't recover your testosterone. Even that is often not enough. That's why if you look at my PDFs, okay, and when you get strong and stable knees, you get also a PDF. I teach a 3-week training cycle. Why do I teach a 3-week training cycle? You know that if you do a lift, let's say you have let's keep the numbers really round and sweet, okay? Let's say you have a bench press. Your bench press is 100 pounds, okay? And on week 1, you train with 100 pounds, okay? You do 1 rep of 100 pounds, let's say 5 times. You take long breaks in between. Next week, you'll be able to hit 105 pounds. The week after that, you'll be able to hit 107 pounds. The 4th week, you'll hit 95 pounds. You go down. The weight goes down. Why? CNS overload. Your system can only do so much. It needs to recover. We talk about that in the PDFs, okay? Stress plus recovery equals adaptation. I need to go through a recovery process. That's why I advocate. I show you guys week per week. This is what you do in week 1. This is what you do in week 2. This is what you do in week 3. Week 4, you're doing this. You're cutting your training in half. That's the secret. That's one major element to staying healthy. If you train hard 4 weeks in a row, then you turn that to 5 weeks, your performance can start to dip. Hey, I'm training more than this guy, and this guy's doing better than me. What's going on here? He's getting more rest. Guys, the formula is stress plus recovery. Plus recovery equals adaptation. We need to give our body rest. However, if you're on steroids, you could skip Week 4, you can go to 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Depends how much testosterone you're getting it synthetically. On the 3rd week, I'm giving my body a break. I'm letting the testosterone come back. I'm letting that drive. When you go train and it feels good, that's because you have testosterone in your system. When you go to training and you feel sore, like you're locking up with your partner, you feel like hell. Your muscles are sore. You're not motivated. Overtraining is the same symptoms as depression. You're feeling down. You're not excited about going to practice. You're pushing through. That's the day you want to go in there and just do technique. I always tell guys, come in, do technique. Never miss technique. Then do abs, do your neck. That's the time you do strong and stable neck. That's the time I do strong and stable shoulder. Something that's not a major muscle group. When I'm feeling good, I'm doing kettlebell. I'm doing deadlifts. I'm doing plyometric. I'm doing Olympic lifts. I'm doing pull-ups. I'm doing row machine. I'm doing running. I'm doing intervals. When I'm feeling a little tweaked, I'm feeling a little odd, I'm feeling a little weak, that's when I do stability ball. Okay, so you'll see in week 4, okay, we're going to do stability ball training. Why? Stability ball training is very mild on the system. We're gonna work with the sledgehammer. Sledgehammer is very mild on the system. I'm working with my shoulder. It's very, very mild. I'm working a small muscle group, not the posterior chain, not the legs back. I'm not doing a full body movement. Your body will recover. What happens when you recover? Boom, testosterone comes back, performance comes back, super compensation. It is crucial that you recover if you're not on steroids. Now, if you are on steroids, you don't have to cut training so much. Okay, so yes, you'll get better at arm bars. Yes, they call it performance enhancing drugs for a reason. Those 3 words together, they mean something. You can't just go and scoff at that. Coach, can you please check your super chats? That's from Amir. Amir, I'm going on super chats, guys. Forgive me for missing super chats. I hate to do that. Celebrating the first super chat from Dun Nam, my brother Dun Nam. Thank you very much, Coach. I have been watching a lot of Shane Carwin recently. Do you think he hits harder than Ngannou because he doesn't fully extend but still gets KOs? That's from HSI. Guys, I've held pads for Shane Carwin. I've worked with Shane Carwin. What a gentleman. What an incredible human being. I remember his hands, dude. They had to make special gloves for him. UFC gloves don't fit. Are you listening to me? They don't fit the man's hands. I've held pads for him. I felt his shots. He's a truck. He's a killer. And he's like an engineer. I can't remember. I think it was an engineer. He's a super intelligent guy. A gentleman. A scholar, man. Like a super sophisticated guy who can wrestle, can box. He was world champion. A phenom. A phenom of a human being. How hard does he hit? Oh, my God. Incredibly powerful man. And he could wrestle. And I can't. I wish I had him for a longer period of time. I only trained with him for like 2-3 weeks. I wish I had him under my tutelage. I would have made him the greatest heavyweight of all time, I think. Honestly. I think he would have been the greatest heavyweight of all time. Does he hit harder than Ngannou? I don't think so. I've never got to work with Ngannou. We had scheduled to work with each other once upon a time. They couldn't get him across the border. I was scheduled to work with Ngannou. I wish I could have got a chance to work with him. This was years ago, before he was hella famous. But I will tell you something. I have a feeling Ngannou hits harder. Just the way people get knocked out by Ngannou. It's just so surreal. And Ngannou was harder to hit. Now, I really feel if I had Shane Carwin under my wing, he would be the greatest heavyweight of all time. He would have beaten Ngannou, especially with his wrestling pedigree. I think I would have got him because defensively, Shane Carwin wasn't there. Defensively, he wasn't as good. You know, his fight against Cigano wasn't as good. Ngannou would have knocked out Cigano. Ngannou would have put him to sleep. Cain Velasquez put Cigano to sleep with one shot. I mean, Carwin, you know, he went through a phase where he kind of trimmed down. He lost weight. I can't say he was the hardest hitter of all time. No, I would have to say it's Ngannou. Hit cardio sports plus shredded and muscular equals PEDs. Well, I'll tell you guys, Pose Up is giving us a formula for how do you know if a guy's on steroids. Well, I'll tell you how it works. I tell guys in the gym, anybody who's more muscular than me, you're on steroids. That's for me, that's how I measure things. Of course, I'm saying that jokingly, because that would mean pretty much everybody's on steroids. No, but you can't know for sure. Sometimes guys are genetically gifted. Like, I always like to look at pictures when the guy was young. When he was young, he looked like He was muscular and shredded, naturally lean. I believe he's natural. I have guys like that. They're super shredded. I grew up with actually a good friend of mine when we were growing up. He was just super shredded, super lean. George St. Pierre, when he was young, he was super shredded, super lean. Some people react differently to carbohydrates. There's a whole theory behind it that they don't produce insulin when they eat carbohydrates. Even Charles Poliquet speculated it was 20%. Now, he claimed to have his own studies. I never saw them. I don't trust in that number. But he used to advocate this. He used to say, look, there's some people that when they eat carbs, they don't have the same reactions as everybody else. And we all have that friend. They eat whatever they want and they're still slim. Either women or man, typically described as ectomorph. Some people are just naturally slim. Some people do steroids. I think it's like a new job now. Just take a lot of PEDs, start an Instagram page, tell people you eat this and you exercise like that, and they're going to start following you, and from there you become an influencer, and from there you get sponsors, and from there you sell a product. BS. A lot of those trainers aren't worth nothing. They're just lying to you. They're telling you they're eating this and they're eating that. They're just recycling other information they heard, and they really eat junk food and they eat whatever they want, but because they're on hormones, they look super shredded. Like I know a guy who's super shredded, super lean. He eats hamburgers, eats whatever. Then he tells the people he eats this and that. It's a sham. Okay, it's a sham. A lot of people. Now, I'm not saying there are not good trainers out there. There are, for sure. But it's like this new easy access. Take these supplement, take these drugs, and you're going to be shredded, and start your Instagram page. And women do it too. Women do it all the time. Coach, any advice on strengthening a dislocated elbow to prevent it from happening again? Thank you for your content and instructionals. Justin, I really recommend you look at strong and stable shoulders. Okay, in strong and stable shoulders, I use a sledgehammer. Why a sledgehammer? Because when you grab a sledgehammer, the weight is torquing your shoulder inwards. So you have to torque outwards. You have to do an external rotation. So as you're going through the exercises I show, you're getting the movement plus torque. I also hold the hammer the other way, so it torques in the opposite direction. So I have to torque inwards. When you're torquing inwards, it's also very good for elbow. Strong and stable shoulder is also very good for elbow. Almost all the exercises relate also to your shoulder, to your elbow, excuse me. All shoulder exercises also are highly effective on your elbow. So I highly, highly recommend you look at strong and stable shoulder, because you'll see a lot of great exercises that also translate to the forearm, elbow, forearm training, elbow, and wrist. Okay, hammer, especially sledgehammer training, guys. I tweaked my shoulder like 3 weeks ago. It's still a little hinge. I do the sledgehammer workout. It finds that twinge better than any other device I've ever used. And also I like the elastics. I'll show you guys an elastic routine in there. And I'm a firm believer in Turkish get up, but that's for shoulders. For elbows, Turkish get up is good. It's not great. What's great for elbows is if you use sledgehammer exercise, and it's super cheap. You get one for $20 at go to your nearest depot shop. Don't buy one of those maces. You know, the mace things, they're going to ship it. It's going to cost you a fortune. It's a great piece of equipment. Why not just buy a sledgehammer? A sledgehammer is identically, it does everything as a mace does. Absolutely. Or a club bell. People buy club bells. Why buy a club bell? Sledgehammer is way cheaper, just as durable, and you could absolutely do anything with it. You could do anything you could do with a mace or club bell, you could do with a sledgehammer. Salam alaikum, coach. When will video of coaching calls be available again? That's the example career path with training years, amateur fights, pro debut. That's from PG. I might make it available again soon. I know it's sold out. I kept it like that because I've been super, super busy. Once things slow down for me a little bit, I got a lot of fights coming up, a lot of guys in training camp right now. Once that slows down a little bit, I'll turn it back on. But for now, it's going to remain sold out, guys. Thank you for your question, Shiv. But for now, it's going to remain sold out. Can you speak about 7 habits, specifically rule first things first, and how to not get overwhelmed with a huge backlog of work? How do I get results? Guys, that's from Ishmael Abdullah. He's asking about the 7 habits, a book I talk about quite a bit. If you haven't read it, it's a must. It's a must. Stephen R. Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is an absolute must. If you haven't read it, you're doing yourself a disservice. There are countless bad books out there. There are countless bad books. 10% are really, really good. 2% are really, really great. This isn't 2%. If you look at your life and things aren't going well, look at the 7 habits. One of them, at least one, you're messing up. There's at least one of them, you're doing badly. And me, I'll tell you, I'll criticize myself. Number 7 is the one I get wrong all the time. and I have a psychological block, I just can't get number 7. Giving my body time to rest, doing a little less. And I know that when I do too much, I put out, I'm not at my highest quality. And I try to remind myself that. I got to take a day off. I got to take a night off. It's almost like I have an obsession with being there all the time. I have to be on the mats. It's almost psychotic. It's like psychosis. You have to fight it. It's a compulsive behavior. But recovery, rest is super important for creativity, for growth, etc. But from 1 to 6, no, I should say 1 to 7 is genius. Now, Ishmael is asking me about first things first. What's first things first? Guys, you got to make your peace with one very important element. You can only do one thing at a time. Make your peace with that. Look, if my wife is asking me to do something, my brother, my mom, my cousin, my student, they're all asking me for something. I'm telling them, guys, whoa. My job, my boss, guys, I can only do one thing at a time. I'm a horse, guys. I work for all of you. I wake up in the morning, I get to work. I go to bed late at night, I was working. I take very little leisure time. I take less than most. I can only do one thing at a time. Here's why I'm doing this thing before the thing you asked me, and I have to have a logical reason. Now, Covey has a really good system. Stephen R. Covey, the author of 7 Habits, he says, look, put things in 4 quadrants. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 quadrants, that's it. It's super simple. Q1 is urgent. It's got to be done today. Guys, I have a leak in the roof. It's leaking now live. The water is leaking in the house as we speak. I had to get my oil change. That's Q3. Forget about oil change. Forget about it. We're doing Q1. There's water leaking as we speak. Now, Q1 is only for emergencies. It's only for things that have to be done now, today, in the next 20 minutes to the next 24 hours. In 20 minutes, 24 hours, it has to be done. My kitchen is on fire. Stop writing your emails. Get up, get the fire extinguisher. That's Q1, okay? So you don't want to live in Q1. You don't want to start putting things in Q1 that don't belong in Q1. You're always in emergency mode. Very few things should go in Q1. That's emergency. Most things will be Q2, Q3. What's Q2? Q2 is I have the next day to 3 days to this week to do it. Okay, I want to do it the next 5 days. Today, maybe later. That's Q2. It's important, but it's not urgent. Okay, it's a level 2 of importance. Then you have Q3. Q3, I want to do it in the next 2 weeks to a month. Q4, it's a long-term project. My wife wants to repaint the kitchen. Put it Q4. You know, when it's summertime, we can air out the house. I'll do it on this week when we have this holiday, and I'll have an extra day, and then we'll paint the house, and it'll be good, and we'll air it out. I'll wait till summer. That's Q4. It's not a rush. It can be done. Nothing's going to change if we paint the house this week or next month or 2 months from now. That's Q4. You got to make peace with the fact that you can only do one thing at a time. And you're always doing the most important thing on the list. So when I look at my list, is there anything in Q1? No. I move to Q2. I never do anything in Q3 if I have something in Q2. I always do Q2 first. If I finish Q2, or some of the projects are not ready to be done yet, now I can move to Q3. This is a simple formula that will make you as efficient as possible. Guys, this is the simplest formula. This thing's tangled. That will make you an efficiency machine. Now, I use a slightly different system, okay? I use a really, really great app. Guys, I'll keep this at a distance because I don't want you guys to see my list of things to do. Here, look, I'll keep it at a distance, okay? But this app is great, okay? It's called, what's it called again? I forget the name of it. It's got like a red check mark. It doesn't say the name. It's unfortunate. It's a really great app. I can move things. So I have a list. I don't use Q1, Q3. I just put a list. I write something and then I put it in order. So I look, okay, let's say my number one thing is like, I don't know, pay this bill. I forgot to pay a bill last month. It's overdue. Okay, is it more important than that? No, it's not. Okay, slide it down. I just slide it down. I keep sliding it down till I find it's something that's more important. Okay, buy more toilet paper. Okay, this topic is more important than buying toilet paper. So I put it above. I just rank them. Instead of having quadrants, I just rank them. And as I write something, let's say I say, okay, I got to do my podcast. Okay, I got to do a podcast about Jones versus Gane. I keep sliding down till I find something that it's more important than, and I leave it there. It'll be done before that. Everything's in order. So when I look at my list, I look at the top. Oh, I need to have this done by this date. The due date is coming. it's done. And things slide up as they've been sitting in Q4, so to speak. They slide up. I slide them up. It's beautiful because you could slide the tasks up and down, and you organize it in a way that the more important things are on top and the less important things on the bottom. Guys, it's all about prioritizing. You can only do one thing at a time. If you do one thing at a time, you're being the most efficient as long as you're doing the most important thing at a time. Always do the most important thing first. Okay, guys, I'm doing one last question. Please, no more super chats because I got to tidy this up. Salam, Coach. I would love to see you have a conversation with Alex Friedman about philosophy and AI. He had a good talk about Islam with Imam Omar Suleiman. Yeah, I would definitely, if he invites me on his channel, I would definitely have a talk with him. Absolutely. I know most of them are materialist philosophers. I would love to go in there and show them an alternative view, a very well-known view in philosophy, but it's just not mainstream nowadays for some reason. But it's a very well and scrutinized worldview that I could tell you is, my opinion, completely irrefutable. Did you saw the so-called Thor Hammer tribe workout of the day hammer kettlebell? I got some really good improvement in grip strength. Only issue, they are pricey. Thor Hammer kettlebell. Let me look that up. Okay, that's interesting. I'm always looking to develop grip strength. Hammer kettlebell. Oops. Kettlebell. Okay. Thor Hammer. Look, I love these devices, okay? They're great, but they're super expensive. It's just basically a giant hammer. Guys, I use a sledgehammer. I don't like the fact that the stem is so short. I think it looks more cool than effective. You want a long stem when you work with a sledgehammer because the stem allows you to use more leverage. You don't need so much weight, okay? So by using leverage as weight, I get more weight on me, on my muscle, without adding weight, okay? So you could use leverage. Don't forget, gymnasts use leverage. They don't use weight. If you look at gymnasts, they build incredible physique. They use leverage against the muscle. They don't use weight, which is fascinating because they don't really need a weight room. The same idea with the sledgehammer, guys. Check out Strong and Stable Shoulders. I go over it completely. Those things are pricey. They're cool. If you enjoy working with them, buy it because motivation is huge. If you enjoy working with a Thor hammer more than you do a sledgehammer, use it. For me, I rather work with a sledgehammer because I feel silly buying something that I don't need. Okay, guys, no more super chats, please. I'm trying to tidy this chat up. I want to make sure. Okay, Carwin. Okay, we did them all. Guys, I'm going to finish up on one last question. 36 sets 2 times a week or 24 sets 3 times a week. That's from Breed Collector. I would like to do 24 sets 3 times a week. The more often. I'd rather do more often. I feel like I do better that way. There's more recent data about how people don't multitask as well as they think they do. That's from Raul Duke. I would tell you, look, that's an old study, and they just keep redoing it. You're right. Multitasking doesn't show great results. It's an old study. They keep redoing it over and over again, and they keep finding the same result. I believe there's a certain level of multitasking that's okay. I like to listen to a podcast while I watch fights. I don't like to listen to the commentary. Not that it's not great. I like to listen on fight night to the commentary, but I really enjoy just like going in there blank, just seeing it for myself, and then maybe I'll watch it again with the commentary later on. But because I find that commentary can really influence us. I want to be there like if I was watching it like a judge. The judge is not hearing the commentary, or they shouldn't be hearing it, because sometimes you can hear, if it's quiet in the room, you can actually hear the commentators talking, even though they're 6-7 feet away from you. You're gonna hear them, right? Even though you're not plugged into a mic, you're not plugged into earphones. Guys, by the way, I'm doing a watch party for Jon Jones versus Gane. Don't forget, at the last watch party, I had to bail out the last second. I had a family emergency. Literally an hour away before the watch party, I got a call. A member of the family was in the hospital. I had to rush to the hospital. I had to cancel the watch party. My apologies for that. All is well. All is stable in the family now. Thank you. For those of you who are sending me messages of concern, thank you. But the next watch party I'm doing is Jon Jones versus Gane. Guys, I'm thrilled about this fight. I'm super excited about it. And I had to mention at the beginning of the podcast. I completely forgot. My apologies for those of you who missed it. I'm doing a watch party for Jon Jones versus Gane. Have you read The Stranger by Albert Camus? What do you think about the Arabs being nameless throughout the book? Was it because being a minority can make us blend into the background of society? That's from Hassan. I haven't read Camus's work. You know, I've heard of I've heard of his name. He's a famous writer. He's not a philosopher. He's more of a writer. You know, he writes stories, etc., and all that. He's not an advanced philosopher. Okay, he's a very smart guy. No doubt about it. But he's more of he'll tell you more about myths and tales than he will about, and he'll kind of draw parallels to our lives from them. You know, he's more of an artist than a logical thinker. Even though he's a very logical guy, but he definitely has an element of art to his work. To answer your question, I couldn't tell you because I haven't read his work on what was it called? Stranger by Albert Camus. I haven't read it. Some of these stupid super chats make me laugh. Okay, guys, I gotta wrap it up because my loved ones are coming home soon. Let's miss my super chat. Damn it. Salam, coach. You missed my previous super chat, guys. There's nothing I hate more than missing super chats. My apologies. I feel bad for these guys throwing money and then not getting their money. It's worth, guys. I'm going back up as much as it will let me. It won't allow me to go any further. Dewey Nam celebrating his first super chat. Thank you very much, Dewey Nam. Guys, I gotta end this up on a final note. Gane will out grapple Jones and finish him. That's from Mason L. Guys, I would be shocked. Guys, if that happens, if he submits Jon Jones, you say finish him. I'm assuming grappling finish or striking finish. If he subs Jon Jones, guys, I will come back here and praise Mason L. I will come back here in my post-fight analysis. I will praise him for his astute observations. Salam, coach. When will the video coaching? Okay, no, sorry, I did that one. Okay, guys, I'm gonna end this on the next one. Let's make it a good one. Sorry about the super chat, guys. Didn't mean to miss it. Just put it in the chat without super chatting. Let's see if I pick it up. That's from Schiff. Okay, Schiff, I'm looking out for you. If you put something in the chat room, Schiff, will you make, after saying his name, say Muhammad, peace be upon him, after saying his name? Yeah, of course I say that, Sniff. I do that all the time, so both guys won't finish the fight. A decision either way, I reckon. That's from John K. Could be a finish, guys. Honestly, this could be definitely a finish. Heavyweight, you never know. Most heavyweight fights are finishes. Don't forget, this is a heavyweight fight. Coach, would love to have you moved. Coach, would you have moved GSP up to middleweight? Luke Rockhold held the belt. When Luke Rockhold held the belt, yes, I would have. Thoughts on Sterling Cejudo? Oh, I love that fight, guys. I'm gonna do a full breakdown on that fight. I have to go through their video, but that's a close one. Hard to call, but I want to say Cejudo right now, but I gotta go through the footage first. Cejudo's been out for a long time. He's a killer. I think he gets it done, but I gotta go through the footage before I give you guys a full breakdown. I'm not ready to do that yet. Gane wins if Jon Jones not on juice. Jon Jones is not a product of only juice. Okay? For sure, it helped him, but he's more than that. A lot more than that. Cejudo definitely takes it. Thoughts on Dariush Oliveira? Oh, is that fight signed? That's a really exciting fight. Did you use more ChatGPT? Yes, guys. I'm a big thank you, Shift, for that question. I use ChatGPT now regularly. I find it makes research really, really effective. It's a brilliant, brilliant product. I love AI. I'm absolutely loving it. I use it almost, I would say, 3 to 5 times a week. I use it a lot. I asked it, what do you think is going to win, Jon Jones or Ciryl Gane, just for fun? And I want to give you guys its results. But it basically says, oh, no, I'm just this and that. I can't speculate on these things. I don't know. How to know a great book. That's from Hatab Yusuf. Okay, guys, I'm going to end it up on that. Guys, when you read a great book, 2 things happen. 1, it pulls you in. It pulls you in. You can't put it down. It's a great book. And it changes something in your life. it betters your life. Some way, somehow, it betters your life. I love straight to the point books. You know, I learned something by Tai Lopez. I hung out with Tai Lopez for a while, and he was like, I read a book a day. He reads a book a day. And I'm reading a lot of books. Okay, I go through a lot of books. I find book reading is incredible for a human being. If you read 100 books, if you did, you would look back and say, after reading your 100 books, you'd be like, wow, I used to be poor. Like I finally have something good in my life. Reading 100 books will change you. It'll do something miraculous to you. I feel sorry for people who never read books. Like their whole life. Some people boast about, I never read a book. Ha ha ha. Guys, in high school, I avoided reading books. I only read books. I did read books that I was interested in. But I avoided every book they gave me because all the books they gave me in school were kind of boring. It was only in college when I can pick what I want. I could pick philosophy classes. I could pick science classes. I could pick the classes that I want. I got interested in. Then my mind was more mature and more ready to learn. I was more interested in learning. I was more fascinated with the world around me. But it can change your life for the better. It'll change you as a human being completely. Now, how do you know if a book is good? One, when you're reading it, it pulls you in. You can't put it down. It's intriguing. You feel like you're transforming. And two, it makes a change in your life. And I was telling you guys about Tai Lopez. Tai Lopez had a really nice technique he taught me. He's like, I even gave a lecture once for him at one of his, I don't know what you call it, but he has like conventions. He flew me in to have to have a talk and give a talk and all that. He's an interesting guy because he literally reads a book a day. But the way he goes about it, the way he explained it to me is like, he says, I mind books. I'm not trying to advocate Tai Lopez. I don't know all his philosophies or anything like that, but I've trained with him once. I've trained him. He hired me once to train him. I trained him once, and we hung out. We talked. We discussed, how he does things and how I do things or whatever. And he was like, I mind books, and it's a very good technique. I use it to this day. He's like, look, I read the first line of every chapter. Of every paragraph, and if it intrigues me, I keep reading. If it doesn't intrigue me, I skip it, and I try to mind the book for gems, and then I discard it. I won't read the whole thing line for line. If it has something good in it, then I start to go deeper in the book. If not, I throw it out. Why? Because you waste a lot of time reading books that aren't that good. So first, the book has to come with a really good recommendation, and then he kind of minds it. I have a different technique, which I think is even better, okay? Because technology has evolved since then. I have a book that's recommended. Somebody told me about it. Somebody tells me they got some benefit from it. I look at a summary of the book, and they're everywhere. Summaries are everywhere. Read summaries, YouTube video summaries. There's people who they make a living just making book summaries. I go through the book summary. If I find it intriguing, I buy the audiobook and I listen to it. I'll go deep. I'll do a deep dive. But so many times I get a book summary and I'm like, oh, I heard all this already. I've heard about this. This is like the 10th book on this topic, and the guy brought nothing new. Thank God I didn't waste the time reading that book. Okay. So it could be new to you, but I've read another book that was saying the same thing. Like earlier before, somebody was saying, oh, there's new research that's saying that multitasking is not effective. Guys, that's old research. I read that 20 years ago. They just keep retesting it and rehashing it. And sometimes it's the same things being hashed out over and over again. You want to avoid needless repetition. Okay. So when you read a good book, it pulls you in. It's intriguing. You find it fascinating. And then when you read the book, you feel it transform your life in some way. If it doesn't, it was just a pleasant story. So we want those two things. Does it affect our life? Is it pragmatic? This is also very, very important. Guys, I hope you like, share, comment. I really enjoyed this podcast, as I always do. If you did, please like, share, and comment. And I'll see you all in the next episode. Thank you.